Welcome to the Caregiver Question of the Week. Today we're going to be talking about a question related to canes that came in from a caregiver interested in fall prevention and safety. Before we get started, my name is Amelia. I'm an occupational therapist. I'm also the owner and founder of Higher Standards Caregiver Training, as well as the very proud co-founder of Whole Care Network University. That's WCN University. And also, this is for educational purposes only. So if you hear me say something that reminds you of someone that you think needs to be seen by a licensed healthcare provider, then please make sure you are advocating for that person to see that appropriate healthcare provider, as this is really and truly for educational purposes. It is not a substitute for health or medical advice, and it is not a substitute for a therapeutic relationship. Okay, here we go. Canes. Fun fact, one of my favorite things to do in the clinic is to take a cane. You know that, I don't want to get in trouble here. You know the dancing frog who shall not be named? Who like, hello my baby, hello my honey, hello my ragtime gal. Okay, you don't want to hear that, but that's one of my favorite things to do with a cane in the clinic when I'm teaching someone or having them use it for exercise or something like that. Anyway, this question came in and it is about canes and whether or not they can be useful for people. And so I'm going to answer this question in a couple of different ways. One is I'm going to answer specifically for canes. And then the second way I'm going to answer, though, is more generally kind of about mobility devices and adaptive equipment in general. So hopefully this will be some good information for you to take away. So again, the caregiver question was, are canes useful? Can they be helpful for safety? Can they be helpful for fall prevention? And the answer is yes, absolutely. As long as a cane is the appropriate thing for that person to be using in order to safely assist them with their mobility so that they can get around safely. The other part, so one, it has to be the right piece of equipment for that person, right? Two, though, we also want to make sure that the cane is set up to be the appropriate height for the person to actually use. And three, that person needs to be using the cane effectively. So kind of one of the, and as I said I was going to answer this more specifically for canes, and then we'll talk about it more generally. But so how do you know a cane is the right height? Well, kind of a good cheater way to know is a cane is a good height if someone has about a 45 degree, like 30 to 45 degree bend in their elbow when they're standing up straight with the cane on the ground. We don't want someone to have a straight arm with the cane, and we don't want someone's elbow to be so bent up here that they can't use effectively either. So we want a little bit of a bend in the elbow in general when setting the height of a cane. The other thing to know is that a lot of times people are confused or mistaken about which side a cane can be used on. And so in general, we usually want to use canes on the side, hold the cane on the side that is opposite of the side that is weaker, of the weaker leg. And here is why. So a lot of times people think, so let's say that my right leg is weaker. A lot of times people think, oh, well, I'll put the cane on the right side so that I can lean on that side as I'm stepping through. Actually, what we want to do, again, let's say that my right leg is the weak leg. What we want to do is put the cane forward at the same time we're stepping forward with that weak side so that we can offload that weaker side with the cane and then step through. So in generally speaking, we usually want the cane to be held on the opposite side of the leg that is weak or painful or whatever it is. I will say, if you are using a cane or any other piece of equipment, it's really important to make sure, this is the second part of the answer, okay? So we've talked specifically about canes, but the most important thing for any piece of equipment to be helpful, and let's be clear, almost any piece of adaptive or medical equipment can be helpful if it meets these 3 criteria, right? 1, it's the correct level of support for the problem. Like, it's the correct device to actually solve that problem, right? If we're not using the right device, then that device is unlikely to make us safer. Sometimes using the wrong device can actually make us less safe. So number 1 is it the right device for the level of support that that person needs with the activity or the task that they're trying to do? The second thing is that device sized appropriately and rated appropriately for that person? So what do I mean? Is it set at the right height? Is it the correct width? Is it the right size? And then also, is it strong enough to hold the amount of weight that it needs to hold? Is it rated for the correct amount of weight for the person that it's being used for? These are really important considerations that tell us whether or not a piece of equipment is safe. And then the third thing is, and actually going along with the second thing, does it function? Is this equipment in good working order? So equipment that is broken is generally not going to make us safer, right? So in order for equipment to be safe and help make us safer, that equipment has to be in good working order. It has to not be broken. The third thing is whether or not someone is using that piece of equipment safely. So just like with the cane, if we're not using a cane the correct way, then that cane is not going to do its full job in making us safer, and maybe even could make us less safe. So for any piece of equipment to actually make us safer, it has to meet those 3 criteria. It has to be the correct piece of equipment, it has to be in good working order, and it has to be the right size and ratings appropriate for that particular person. And 3, we have to actually use it the way it was intended. We have to actually use it safely in order to make it a safe piece of equipment to use. And only if all 3 of those things are met do we really get safer using equipment. I'm not telling you, by the way, to not use safety equipment. Far from it. What I am telling you is that you need to make sure that you have the right kind of safety equipment. And that may mean that you need to, often that means that you need to be seen by an actual healthcare provider. Usually that's going to be either a physical therapist or an occupational therapist a lot of the time when we're talking about this kind of equipment. And of course that will depend on the type of equipment that you're looking at. But let that expert make that recommendation for you so that you know, and give you the right training so that you know that it is the best piece of equipment and that it's going to be used safely. Okay, so that is kind of the big answer to what seems like a small question about canes. If you are concerned about falls or fall prevention, please keep an eye out. I'm going to be posting within the next week a cute little video with information about registering for the Family Caregiver, for the first event in the Family Caregiver Fall Prevention Series, which is going to be all about recognizing the signs and symptoms that someone is at risk of falling so we can step in to intervene before a person actually falls. So keep an eye out for that cute little video with registration information on it. And otherwise, if you are a caregiver, if you have a question, please feel free to submit it. You can post in the comments. If you do, please make sure that you tag me so that I'm actually, so I get notified that there is a comment there with a question. Or you can always submit a question to me directly via the Caregiver Question of the Week submission form, and that way you can do it privately without having to share your business with the world, if that is what you want to do. Okay, until next time, y'all, please stay healthy, stay well, and most of all, take care. I will see you next week with more information for the Caregiver Question of the Week. Bye.